Hey folks, welcome to Flukatronic. Today we're going to be doing a behind the curtains look at a recent cover track I did called Closer to the Heart by Rush. And as I explained in that video, this was kind of a challenge by one of my Facebook friends and tribute to Neil Peart on his passing. So I wanted to go over some of the details on this, why I picked that particular song, and then mainly what I want to do today is go over the backing track and how that was put together, because there's some interesting things going on there that you might want to use and that I'll be using in the future. Okay, so why Closer to the Heart? Well, when I got this challenge, if you know anything about Rush and Native American flutes, you can appreciate that combining the two might be a challenge. So the things I was looking at to pick one is that the song needed to be relatively short, relatively simple in terms of structure. So not a lot of funky time changes and transitions and that kind of stuff. So I kind of threw out some of my favorites like YYZ or La Villa Strangiato, those kind of things are right out. Also needed to be one that fit the range of the flute, uh, just the natural note range. And it had to be one that I could either find a backing track for pretty easily or generate one myself. And that kind of turned out to be the interesting challenge. So let's just turn over to the PC here. Okay, so here we are on the PC. Let's go over some details. So as I was looking for pieces, I have a pass subscription to sheetmusicdirect.com. So I scanned through what they had available. This is their public sheet, public page. So not giving away any secrets here, but you can kind of see here from the first page that it's in the key of A, which is kind of a friendly key for Native American flute. So an A flute is what I selected, and I'm basically playing in the major key, so A major, and you can see this initial intro piece goes from an A up to a B, and then down to a C sharp. So that's well within the range of an A flute. So that's kind of where I started, was with this arrangement. And it is a relatively short song. It's only like 3 minutes and pretty simple structure. So it's there's 4 verses all together. There's an intro section, a break in the middle, and we'll look at that as we go through the arrangement a little bit later. Uh, Backing track. So this is, of course, a rock track, and it's hard to find backing tracks. You can find a lot of jazz and pop. And if you've seen the channel, you'll know that I play a lot of things from the Hal Leonard collection and the Jamie Aebersold collection of play-along books. So those are kind of good for jazz and pop tunes. Not much available for rock. So what I decided to do is use this tool called Spleeter. This came out last November, and I'll put links to all this. Spleeter is a way of separating out primarily the vocal track from a recording, from a full mixed recording. And so they put this out. It's a research project. There is a GitHub page, and if you want to install this on your Linux workstation or Windows workstation, you can go through this. And I actually did that back in December for one of my Christmas songs. I went through this, and honestly, it was kind of a pain in the butt to get this set up on Windows. I got through it, but took me probably 3 or 4 times trying to go back through installation options and dependencies and so forth. And I have a degree in computer science, so and even for me, it was a little bit tedious. So I would not really recommend that unless you just have a special need there. Because what I found was this site. There's a couple of sites that have put a web front end to the Spleeter tool, and the one I'm using right now is called moises.ai. And if you look at this, this is the cover page. So, and there's an example here. Won't try to play the audio through here, but all you do, and this is just pretty cool. So you need to sign up for an account, which I've already done. So once you sign in, and here's my rush, so I've already done this once, but click the upload track, and what you can do is if you have a WAV file or an MP3 file of your track, you can upload it from your computer. Or a very cool feature of Moises is that if you have a YouTube link, you can often just put that straight in here and you don't even need the file. So that is actually what I did. So I just went on YouTube, found a version of Closer to the Heart there. And so here was one. I didn't really need the lyrics, but the backing track, or the back of this video, is simply the studio track. So that's what I did. Now you've got a lot of options for how to extract. You can just pull out the vocals. So the 2-stem is where this tool originally came from, and what it's designed for is pulling out vocals. So the 2-stem will just pull out the vocals by themselves and then everything else in a separate track. For this one, I used the 4-stem version, and we'll see that in the Reason session in just a minute. So you get 4 tracks: vocals, bass, drums, and everything else. And for Rush, this pretty much takes the lead vocal, Geddy Lee's bass, Neil Peart's drums, and then other ends up being pretty much all the guitars from Alex Lifeson. So this was a perfect way to do that. And once you do that, what happens is you get, usually takes a few minutes for that to process. And so you get the individual tracks here. You can play them straight through the website, or you can download those. And that's what I did. So I downloaded the 4 stem tracks and pulled them into my Reason session. So what let's do now is I'm going to bring my cover up, and we'll play that and play through the Reason session here, and we'll just point some things out and talk about some aspects of the backing track. So let's go ahead, play that. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is that the vocal track is completely muted, right? So you're not going to hear anything from Geddy on this. And the reason is that, of course, I'm replacing the vocal with flute. So the intro section here, you see the A flute. And I'm switching flutes here for a couple of reasons. One, during the verse, the melody of the verse seemed to fit a little bit higher key flute, so I'm actually using a B flute, and that was kind of neat too, because you may have seen in earlier videos, this flute was actually made by Brent Adams, who gave me the challenge, so that was kind of a neat idea to be able to include that in the piece too. Okay, so that was basically the verses, and then that middle break there was able to do a little bit of a duet, so that's pretty cool. And then we go back for verse 3. Of course, the guitars are getting louder and leading in this little break. And then we get into the solo, and you can see here the other track. This is essentially a guitar track, and I've muted this section, so completely taken out Alex Lifeson's guitar solo. No disrespect meant. If you want to hear that, you can listen to the studio track. And then again, just bringing in a little bit of harmony in the video, so that was neat. And then we come out of the solo, guitar comes back, and that little intro lick on the A flute comes back in. So 5 times through instead of 4 at the beginning. And then we come back for a final verse and the B flute one more time. There we go. And let's see, that is really about all the interesting things to point out. But you can see these 3 tracks bass drums and other. I just kept it unity gain and mixed this down, and then did the video edit on the iPad as usual. But won't show that today unless somebody wants to see that. I can go into more detail. But obviously, once you have it in your DAW like this, you have the full power of the DAW available if you want to remix or add effects or really anything. You've got all that available right there in your DAW. So it's a great tool for remixers and just making backing tracks. So I'm sure I'll be using that quite a bit as we go forward here. Now, we need to talk about a very important aspect here, and that is this legal? And the answer is no, but. All right, so obviously this is copyrighted material. So it is absolutely illegal to use this for your own private use. So I would never use this technique if I was trying to produce a track for an album I was going to sell, or post up to distrokid.com or something like that. Anything I was trying to profit off of, I would never use this technique because it is stealing. So you can't do that. And ask 80s rappers how much trouble they got into just for sampling 3 seconds of a song and trying to get away with it. So you won't get away with that. But the big caveat is I'm using this for YouTube, and the thing about YouTube is it's ad supported. So most of the videos you see are monetized, at least from the big channels. And mine's not big enough yet, but one day I hope to maybe get there. But what they do is they have some artificial intelligence and other systems in place to detect copyright infringement like this. So if I look at my YouTube studio for the Flukatronic channel, here's the cover song, and you can see here it says copyright claim. So what that means is somebody had identified the audio on my video and had identified that as a copyright infringement. So what that means is it's not a copyright strike, which would get you in big trouble. So it doesn't really affect the status of your channel. The video is still viewable by everybody, but what it does mean is that if I were a YouTube affiliate and getting ad revenue, I would not be eligible to get revenue on this particular video because the copyright holder would get that monetization. So I have my doubts on this is really the copyright owner. So obviously this was something that was just automatically generated, but this is some kind of publisher in Brazil. I really have my doubts that that's the real owner of this, but I'm not getting paid for this. And somebody else will. So that's kind of the yeah, but. So on YouTube, everybody does it. You can kind of get away with it because the copyright owners are, for the most part, happy to get that ad revenue off of your plays. So, it's not legal, but so if somebody came back, the real copyright holder came back to me and said, I don't like what you did there. It's my intellectual property. Please take that down. Then I would, of course, be obligated to do that because I don't own that. So just putting that out there. Be careful what you do with this, and be respectful of other folks' intellectual property. Yes, that's all we needed to cover today. If you have any questions, you want me to go into more detail on this process or anything else on the channel, please let me know in a comment, and we'll try and get that answered for you. So that's all for today. Thanks for watching. Bye.